Hey y'all, I'm Tammy and welcome to my empty nest.
Doesn't matter if the snow is falling or the wind blows.
Okay, let's get right into it. First off is the cream cheese dessert. And these are the ingredients that we're going to need. I don't know if this thing actually has a name. We have never called it anything except the cream cheese thingy. But it's good, y'all. It's really good. So, first off, preheat your oven to 350 and spray whatever pans you're going to use. Then we're going to take 2 blocks of softened cream cheese and add a cup and a half of sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla to that. And then we're going to mix it up until it's smooth. Now, if you don't have time to sit your cream cheese out to get it softened, you can always sit it on your stove top, and as your oven preheats, it will go ahead and soften up your cream cheese. So once you get your mixture all done, you're going to take your one of your things of crescent rolls, and you're going to put a layer in the bottom of each one of your pans. Or if you do a 9 by 13, that's fine too. And then you would just lay the entire thing out across the bottom. So just spread it out as good as you can. And then you're going to add half of your cream cheese mixture to each of these pans. And then you're going to want to spread that out in a pretty even, layer. And then once you get that all spread out, you're going to add your second can of crescent rolls if you can get it open, because I about threw both my thumbs out trying to get the darn thing open, y'all. But I did. I prevailed, and we're going to get this dessert done. So you take this second can of crescent rolls and you're going to lay this across the top of each one of your pans and try to press those little seams together if you can. If you can't, it's not a big deal. But, if you want your crust to go from edge to edge, just try to pinch those together and spread it out as best as you can. And then once you get this top layer of crescent rolls on, you're going to take I think I did about a tablespoon of butter, just melt that. And you're just going to brush that on the top so your sugar and cinnamon will have something to stick to. And just spread that across both. And then this little container is one of those that has the cinnamon and sugar mixture. I think I got it at the Dollar Tree or something. But if you don't have this, you can always just make your own cinnamon and sugar mixture, but this is so much easier. So just spread that on in a pretty even layer, unless you turn it sideways like I did and the sugar hits the top and then you end up with it all wonky on top. But you know what? It tastes just the same, even if it's wonky, y'all. So just do the best you can. So once you get your cinnamon and sugar all on there like you like it, you're going to pop these in the oven for about 30 minutes. And then when they're done, just take them out, let them sit on your counter until they cool down, and then just put them in the refrigerator. To me, they're always better like the next day. So do that. Next up, we have Buckeyes. Now, these are the ingredients you're going to need, but I did forget on here to put the butter. So you are going to need a half a stick of butter or a half a cup of butter. And that melted. See, it's right there on the screen for you. So we're going to take 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, and we're going to put that in our little bowl. And y'all, I don't know that I ever knew these things were called Buckeyes. I found them, I think, on the Tasty website, but we always just called them peanut butter balls, because we are sophisticated like that around here, and we use the proper name for everything, clearly. So once you get your powdered sugar in there, you're going to add a cup and a half of creamy peanut butter. And then once you get your peanut butter in your bowl, you're going to add that half a cup of melted butter. And you don't need like a mixer or anything for this. When you do, when you add that melted butter to the mixture, it's going to help like melt that peanut butter a little bit. And so it's going to be really, really easy to mix together. And you just pour it in there and just mix it really, really good, because sometimes, at least in my experience, powdered sugar will sometimes try to clump up. So just stir it really, really well. And like I said, the melted butter really helps get it all, mixed because it melts that peanut butter and it turns out really good. But because you added this hot butter and everything is now warm, you're going to need to take this mixture once you get it. Lord, I am whipping that. But anyway, once you get it all mixed up good, you're going to just pop it in the freezer for about 20 or 30 minutes. I think I did 30 minutes. If you have to leave it a little bit longer, it's not going to hurt it. I don't know that it would. I mean, I guess if you left it overnight, it would freeze solid, but when you get it out, it's going to be hard like this. So I just took a little cookie scooper, like the medium size one, to scoop it out, just so I would kind of have uniform size peanut butter balls. So you just scoop them out, roll them up. And this was another thing that I did that I shouldn't have. I put it on the wax paper because I wasn't thinking that because you're rolling these in your hand and it's warming that peanut butter back up, you're going to have to put these back in the freezer. So just when you roll them out like this, go ahead and put them on a cookie sheet and then pop them back into your freezer for, I think I did about another 30 minutes or so. So once they come out, you're going to use a toothpick. Now go ahead and melt your chocolate, a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Just melt them in the microwave. It takes about a minute. Just stir it about every 10, 15 seconds so it doesn't, burn, so it'll melt smooth. And then you're just going to use your little toothpick and roll them around in that chocolate. And once you get them all coated in the chocolate, you can leave them on the counter and they'll be fine as long as it's not like warm in your house. But I went ahead and just put them back in the refrigerator, and I just keep them in the refrigerator. And then if you want to get one or two out and eat them, you can. But I don't let them just sit out because I feel like the peanut butter starts to get a little soft. So next up, we have Snowball Cookies. Now, here are the ingredients you're going to need for this. Go ahead and preheat your oven to 400, and you're going to want to go ahead and melt that butter also. Now, I used pecans, and these were supposed to be chopped pecans, and I mean, I guess technically they are, but they still had really big chunks in them. And these are really small cookies, or pretty small cookies. So I went ahead and used my handy dandy food processor right there and went ahead and got those chopped up a little bit finer because, like I said, you don't want a big hunk of pecan in a tiny little cookie. So if you have a little food processor, feel free to use that, but this is what I had, so this is what I used. And look how much better that is. Perfect. So you're going to take 2¼ cups of flour in your bowl, and then you're going to add your 3/4 of a cup of whatever chopped nuts you're using, walnuts, pecans, whatever, and a half a teaspoon of salt. And I realized as I was mixing this that I actually needed this bowl to mix my other ingredients in. So you're going to see my dry ingredients do a wardrobe change. So in your bowl, you're going to add a half a cup of powdered sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla, roughly. We just kind of dump it in there. And then you're also going to add your butter. And then once you get all that added in there, you're going to go ahead and if you have a stand mixer and you're fancy and you have a KitchenAid, feel free to use that. I have a stand mixer. It is not a KitchenAid, but I actually don't have it at my house right now because somebody borrowed it and I keep forgetting to get it back. So you're going to go ahead and just use your little hand mixer and mix this up until it's nice and smooth. And then you're going to start little by little adding those dry ingredients in there. And y'all, when I tell you this hand mixer was not a good idea, I had clouds of flour everywhere. I had hunks of cookies slung from one end of my kitchen to another. But that's okay, because you know what? We made these cookies anyway, and I have to do the cleaning. So if I make the mess, I guess I don't mind having to clean it up. So what you're going to do is take these, and I just have a little tablespoon, like measuring spoon, Just again, so I can kind of keep them the same size. And I do get a little baby one out here in a minute. It's really cute, y'all. But you put these on your cookie sheet that's lined with parchment paper. And it doesn't matter how close you put these together because they're not like a cookie that's going to rise. They just kind of just get done, but they're not going to rise or anything. So if they're touching or if they're all, all clumped together on your pan, it's not going to make a difference. So you're going to put those in the oven at 400 for about 10 minutes. And you can see that the bottoms are just kind of lightly browned. Then you want to let them cool off just enough to where you can actually handle them, but you don't want them to be cold. You want them to be a little bit warm so that that powdered sugar, look at that baby, y'all see right there. That is so cute. But anyway, you want your powdered sugar to stick. So you can just roll these in your powdered sugar, put them on a wire rack, and that way you don't end up with powdered sugar everywhere, or at least any more places than where it's already going to be. And then you can do a second coating of powdered sugar once they cool down if you want to. I don't feel like they really need it, so I didn't do that. The last thing that we have today is crispy Grinch treats. Now, you're going to need what you need for Rice Krispie treats: butter, marshmallows, Rice Krispies, and then for these, we also needed some green food coloring and some sprinkles. Now, you just melt your 3 tablespoons of butter in your pan, and then add your bag of mini marshmallows. Stir constantly, let those cook. When they're almost finished, go ahead and start adding your green food coloring. Now, when I started doing this recipe, I was going to make these Christmas wreaths. But as I was adding this green, it turned way more Grinch green than Christmas green. So, since Walmart had messed up my pickup order and they gave me Valentine's sprinkles instead of Christmas sprinkles, I had some little hearts. So I thought that would be cute. We would just turn this into something kind of Grinchy. So once you get everything melted up, you're going to add your 6 cups of Rice Krispies, and you're going to fling them all over the counter, like every good cook does. And I also, you see, I have the parchment paper down there because I was going to do those wreaths. But we have now swapped that out. We've done another wardrobe change, and we're going to use this 9x13 pan. And I'm just going to take this leftover little hunk of butter, and we're going to grease this pan up real good so that it doesn't stick once we get it in there. And then we're going to dump all that glorious green goodness into that pan. And y'all, when I tell you this was work, that is a Dutch oven. That is a cast iron Dutch oven, and I love it. Cooks everything wonderfully. You're probably going to see me cook a lot more stuff in there. But that thing weighs at least 5,000 pounds. And I darn near threw my wrist out trying to get these Rice Krispie treats into this doggone pan. But I did it, y'all. Again, I persevered. I pushed through, and we got it done. Now, you're going to have to press these into this pan. So you're going to take that hunk of butter that you had, and y'all don't panic because I'm not going to serve that butter to anybody. I promise. So you're going to take your buttered up hands, and you're going to press your Rice Krispie treats down into the pan as much as you can get them down in there. And then you can just decide how big you want your treats, and that's how far apart you will space your little hearts. Now, I'm going to give these to my grandbabies, so I am not about to get my daughter and her husband upset at me. So I'm going to make these little small treats for my babies. And so you just space your little hearts out however far you need them to be. And then you just cut them up and pull them out of your pan. You got a whole bunch of little Grinchy treats. Look how cute that is, y'all. Is that not the cutest little thing you've ever seen? Little Grinch treats.